Welcome to the Sage Enterprise Intelligence presentation of the version 7.2 new features. In this version of SEI, we present two new major features, the Web OLAP Manager and the all-new Report Designer. We have also continued to make enhancements in different areas of the application, such as improving performance of loading data, giving the users an option to reverse their data. Several new database connection types are now available. You also have an optional tracing feature to allow logging of your usage statistics and other practical improvements which we'll cover later in the presentation. First, we will start with the Web OLAP Manager. This version of the OLAP Manager is now fully integrated into the web application. This will facilitate installation and maintenance of the tool. The new OLAP Manager utilizes an HTML5 interface and has a completely revamped look and feel, which is more easy to use. Using this tool, you will no longer need to write SQL functions, nor will you need to configure any linked servers. Scheduling for when the data will load and when to refresh the cubes are now directly available in the OLAP Manager. Also, thanks to a new logic and architecture applied in the backend, the cubes can now be refreshed more frequently. Users will certainly enjoy and benefit from having almost real-time data in their cube processes. Now let's take a look at the application. Under the Administration tab, we now have two new buttons for the OLAP Manager. We've included an Upgrade Cubes button to help facilitate the migration of your older cubes into the new version. In this master list, you will see all of your cubes and their build and last refresh dates. There are two types of cubes that exist in the new OLAP Manager, description cubes and regular cubes. The former allows the SEI cube to be completely standalone from other data sources. You'll notice this cube is in production and cannot be currently modified. This is not the case for the financial cube, so we're able to access the dimensions window. This is where you can group your cube dimensions by categories of your choice. We now have more data types available inside the cube. Next, we will identify our data sources. You can easily include multiple data sources from different database types into your cube. Database types include SQL, Oracle, DB2, and others. There's also a dynamic button which can identify if the data source is changing. If not, you can uncheck that option and it could be a static system such as your legacy system. When editing your data source, you will have a familiar window which looks a lot like the design process. You have your tables and your joins, and you can select any dimension or measure or add a calculated field. At the bottom, you have your where clause which you can apply some filter. And on the right hand side, you will have all your selected fields inside your data source. The most important thing about this window is the new tracking system. The tracking system is what allows the cubes to refresh more frequently. It allows the user to identify which fields to track and monitor from the original data source and then to refresh the cube accordingly. This way, you're not pulling in all of the data each time you refresh a cube. Now let's look at how we map the data. This user-friendly window will be a huge improvement over the SQL functions in the old OLAP Manager. We have all the fields in the dimension on the left and all the fields in the data source on the right. There's a level of validation done to see if your fields will match, and there's a legend to provide an explanation for each color. We've also included an auto mapping feature, so if you name everything correctly, you will be able to simply click auto map and the software will map everything for you. Now let's exit this window and go look at the slices. In the Slice Master List window, we now have a new column called Records. This is a count of how many records are in every slice. We also have a number of dimensions. This will help you identify any duplicate slices. As always, we will have an identification for the master slice. One of the major improvements in the new OLAP Manager is the ability to do the scheduling of the refresh cubes directly in the interface. There are two types of jobs in the scheduler: the initial load all, which will populate your cube, and the refresh, which will maintain it up to date. You have an option to select which environment you'd like to build the cube for, as well as if you decide to deactivate the scheduling. You can schedule the cube refresh as often as you want based on the frequency of changes in your data source. The last important change in the new OLAP Manager is the ability to view the logging of the cube activity directly in the interface. This is a list of all the activity logged during the initial cube loading and the data refresh. If the cube were ever to fail, this would be a good tool to troubleshoot the issue. Here is a list of the new OLAP cubes offered out of the box for your Sage software. The other major feature introduced in version 7.2 is the Web Report Designer. This report designer is for bridging the gap between the SEI application and the SEI Excel add-in. The interface is full HTML5 and it allows the users the ability to create financial statements in the web. All sorts of formatting can be done to the headers, the totals, the calculated rows, as well as, and not limited to, the main title and adding logos. Users will be happy to learn that the familiar features such as selection pages and prompts, printing and exporting, as well as distributions are available in the reports. Now let's look at the report designer. In the Command Center, you now have a fourth tab at the bottom called Reports. We're going to build a new report. We have the option to publish it for a user or a group, and also if we want to use a prompt or a selection page. First thing we want to do in the report designer is set the report title. This is the main title that will be seen on the final product of your report. We can type in a title like income statement, apply any kind of formatting of our choice, and alignment if needed. If we prefer to not use words, we can also put a logo. We're going to select the Sage Enterprise Intelligence logo, and we're going to resize it so that it is legible on the screen. Now we're going to bring in another title as a subtitle for our first section in our income statement. We will call it Sales. Afterwards, we want to bring in some data. So we're going to go to our Command Center, find our process and worksheet of our choice, and drag it into the report. To keep it consistent, we will call this section Sales. Now that we have all the GL accounts, we will want to edit our worksheet to filter out all unnecessary accounts and only bring in the sales accounts. Here we can also add dimensions and measures. There's a new type of dimension available to the users called Spacer. This is to improve the look and feel of your report. Now we will record our filter. Keep in mind, whatever we modify here will not affect the Command Center worksheets. Once we click OK here, we will have a worksheet with only our sales accounts. In the worksheet properties, we can modify and format the total row. We will change the background color, and we will decide if we want the total to show at the top or the bottom of this section. Other formatting can be applied, and also we can add a label such as total for this row. Users can also choose to reverse the data on the section depending on whether it's sales or costs that they're looking at. Once you're done, you click Save and you go back to your report designer. Here we will add another subtitle to represent the following section. Cost of goods sold is the name of the title. We don't need to remake any worksheets. We can use the ones that we've already created and formatted the way we like. All we need to do is change the filter. The filter is currently showing accounts for sales. We would like to change that to show the accounts of our costs. We can either clear the filter or edit the filter directly. Once you click OK, you'll see the data will load accordingly. We will also remove the reverse data. Now we have two sections of our income statement completed. We would like to make a third section that calculates the difference between the sales and the costs. We will call this profit. This is a calculated column section, so by default, all the columns will show undefined, but the user can set a title of their choice and also a calculation of their choice. For example, the ledger month posting will be a sum of the sales minus the costs. The format of this calculation should be a currency. You can click Save and you will see that now for the ledger month posting you have a calculation. We can also modify the properties of this calculated section. Here's a preview of your report. Now we'll save our report and we'll go look at an official income statement offered to you out of the box with the X3 template. In this income statement, we have a selection page. This will allow the users to enter their parameters before opening up the report. We see that we have multiple sections and multiple calculated areas in this income statement. Keep in mind, all of this data is real time and you still have the ability to drill down. Also, you can still print, export, and distribute this report to anybody you wish in your company. The View External link is also available, which allows you to copy this link and put this report in your homepage of X3. Here's a look at an SCI balance sheet report integrated directly into an X3 landing page. Notice how you still have full functionality of SCI. The next important feature are the performance improvements in version 7.2. We have now removed all unnecessary joins from the SQL statements that we sent to the data source. On the left-hand side, you have version 7.1 and earlier, which includes a large statement and several joins in the query. On the right-hand side, you have version 7.2, which includes only the necessary joins and is a more concise query sent to the data source. This will enhance performance and loading time. Users will now have the ability to reverse the data in their existing worksheets. Also, there are three new data source connection types: MySQL, Excel, and Pervasive. The last two features we will cover during this presentation are related to the SCI Excel add-in. There is now a new window to manage publication of all processes to the Excel add-in. It is a simple window listing all the processes available in your command center and a check mark next to it to enable or disable the publication. Directly in the SCI Excel add-in, users now have the ability to select which fields they would like to load in their pivot tables. This will reduce the file sizes, the time to load the data, as well as keep a cleaner look for their reports. And finally, there's a pop-up window that allows the user to cancel the loading of the data extraction, the pivot table, and the formula drill down. That concludes the overview of the new features in Sage Enterprise Intelligence version 7.2. Thank you for your time. We hope that you've enjoyed this presentation.